It's never too early to plan for Thanksgiving, and your neighborhood Safeway can help. Get a great deal on frozen grade A whole honeysuckle turkey. Buy one 10 to 20 pound turkey and get one free when you shop with your club card and spend an additional $35. Limit 2 while supplies last. And stock up on selected varieties and sizes of Del Monte canned vegetables for only 69 cents each. Look for your Safeway ad in the red plum packet in your mailbox. Safeway, it's just better.
There's some dangerous, large carnivore out there.
And I saw that bird kick a young deer off the way. He was far away. And it was just about getting dark, and we started panicking, running down this ridge, not really having any clue what was throwing rocks in our vicinity, good-sized rocks. And I stopped long enough to get a 357 out of my backpack and look back, and that's when I saw it. I saw one.
For a week, the town of Defiance was being harassed by a werewolf, and it's actually attacked two railroad workers, killed livestock. Just a lot of weird stuff that was going on.
Good Sunday evening, Monster Xers. This is Gunnar Monson, your host of Monster X Radio, also the founder of Monster X sponsor, the Sasquatch Coffee Company. You can find delicious micro-roasted coffee at www.squatchcoffee.com. Shane and I are actually recording this show on Tuesday, the 10th, because we will be out of radio range come Sunday. We are headed up into, with Mark Marcel, to Ape Canyon, to the site of the Fred Beck incident, 1924 incident with the cabin and the Bigfoots throwing rocks at the miners, and the story is that they shot one and it fell down into the canyon. So we're going up there and look around and visit a big historical site for Bigfooting. So we're excited about that. With me, as always, is my good friend and Bigfoot researcher extraordinaire, Shane Hardcore Corson. Shane, how are you?
I'm doing well, Gunnar, and glad to be here as usual. And really looking forward to going up to the Ape Canyon site and gridding the area and going out with Mark Marcel and just getting experience the whole thing up there. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and it's funny. Every time you still giggle every time that I say hardcore.
I do.
So. But it's fitting if you've been out with Shane, and if you ever go out with Shane, be prepared to go out and go extremely hardcore. So our guest today is go big or go home.
That's right.
Our guest today is the host of the new podcast Into the Fray, and Shannon LeGro. Shannon has started a new endeavor. You probably remember from Sasquatch Chronicles. And Into the Fray is her new endeavor, and it's a multi-topic show hosted by Shannon, and along with collaborators such as Ryan Sprague, UFO journalist, and British Dark-Artist Sam Shearon, otherwise known as Mr. Sam. They cover all high strangeness subject matter, and you can find Into the Fray Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific at www.intothefrayradio.com. And I am ready to Miss Shannon, if I can answer the phone. Good evening, Shannon.
Good evening, you guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. So for the folks
and I have to say,
go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to say straight away, I hadn't heard yet about your Eighth Canyon excursion. Congratulations.
Thanks. We're extremely stoked. So we'll be taking lots of photos and some video and stuff and sharing it with the Monster X audience. So it's been we've been trying. It's something we've been trying to set up basically all summer long. So we're getting up there just before the heavy weather hit. So it should be a good
and then
time.
did they end up closing the roads down at some point up there?
I'm not sure. I haven't been. I think that you can get through a lot of the area, but not where we're going. It's about a 3-hour hike off of the road.
Right.
So we'll see. I'll be able to tell you more when we get back.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. I'm sure it'll be a fun time.
Yeah, thanks. Shannon, for the folks, Monster X audience that doesn't know who Shannon LeGro is, have been living under a rock, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was originally on Sasquatch Chronicles, and I was brought on as a co-host for that show. And I ended up doing a subsequent show called Show Notes with Shannon, where I would interview various people and do my research on them. I would interview Linda Godfrey, Lau Blackburn, as a few of the people. And I think that those shows are still even available on iTunes for people that want to listen to those. That was a good experience for me. I have no ill will or problems with Sasquatch Chronicles and that experience. But for now, as you mentioned, I'm doing a new show called Into the Fray Radio, where as Sasquatch Chronicles, hence the name, plus Show Notes was Sasquatch only, I'm now doing a multi-topic show where we talk about, it's still Sasquatch, and that's going to be upcoming quite a bit in the next couple of months. There's a lot of Sasquatch shows, serial killers, UFOs, that was my most recent show, and paranormal and haunting. So we're really covering all sorts of interesting topics. And I think maybe a lot of the Monster Xers and even some of my old, friends from Sasquatch Chronicles may not like all of the shows, but maybe a few would interest them.
I agree, but your shows, Shannon. I mean, how did the Fray come to be? Kind of know where you came from. Maybe go in that a little bit more, but how did the Fray come to be? And then the topics you guys discuss are they're kind of across the board, but they're fascinating. I listen to Fray Radio, Into the Fray Radio,
thanks,
and I seriously love it. You do such a fantastic job with your co-hosts, and I may not be every topic may not be of interest to me, but having listened to some shows, they've become of interest of me because of you guys' dialogue and research into those, and some of your guests as well. So it's fantastic. But how did the Fray come to be?
Well, first of all, thanks. That's I think that's one of the best compliments I think that the three of us could get is the fact that maybe we're going to interest some people in some topics they weren't so interested in before. So thank you so much, first of all. Well, honestly, I think that the name, when I decided finally after leaving Sasquatch Chronicles that I wanted to do another show, the name, I was going through all sorts of different permutations, and I should post that one of these days. It's just a long list. I think I typed it in my iPhone under notes. I was just going through some stuff, and what do I call this show? I know I want it to be multi-topic.
Right.
I want to get away from just the Sasquatch subject, and it morphed into the Fray. And it literally just it just happened over probably 2 days of morphing the name. It was Into the Gray at one point, or Gray something or other, and then the word Fray came up. And who doesn't like the movie with, the fantastic Liam Neeson, right? I've gotten that quite a few times. People send me that poem, and I'm like, well, it didn't really come from that, but the Fray word, definitely pops into your head. And I also like the band, The Fray. So, there were some influences there from the outside, but Into the Fray was just kind of something that was just at the end of the notes. That's where the name came from. So, and I just knew the second that I left SC that, I didn't know I'd continue. I shouldn't say that. But the second I realized I wanted to do a radio show, I knew it would be a multi-topic show.
Yeah, your show's it reminds me, it's very reminiscent of, it reminds me of like the X-Files, the TV show. Not for, that's a TV show, of course, and we're talking radio, and you're talking to some very credible guests and witnesses and the whole nine, but just a multi-topic, and how, I used to love X-Files. And I wasn't interested in a lot of the, they do ghost stuff and alien stuff and a whole variety of stuff, but they would captivate me. And Into the Fray does that for me. It captivates me. It gets me thinking, and I'm really excited because, really you guys are in your infancy, but yet you've already put some powerful shows together and some very intriguing shows together. The future looks very bright, and I know you guys have, very diligent with your work and research and whatnot. And as far as, the show content, and it's really exciting.
Thank you so much, Shane. Yeah, I think one of the biggest shows for me so far, and I don't think it's going to be a shock to anybody, was my David Paulides interview. I really did do my homework for that one. Not that I didn't want to, because anytime he puts a book out, I try to devour it and learn the cases. Yeah. But I really put a lot of work into that, and I've gotten pretty good feedback from that episode, which feels really good, because I wanted to not just go in there and, I needed to know my stuff, basically. It's David Paulides. He certainly knows his stuff. So I owed it to him and to my audience to know what I was talking about with his new book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you mind elaborating a little bit about that episode? Because that was, I have to admit, probably my favorite episode as well. And what did it take to get David to join you, and what kind of research did you do going into that episode?
Well, I think what really helped me is the fact that, and I had conversed with him a little bit prior to this meeting, but I went to the Borough Conference in Ohio. It was only like a 4-hour drive for me, so anything within 4 or 5 hours, as you know, isn't that bad. So it's worth going, especially if, David Paulides was there, and a lot of my friends were there, so there was no reason not to go. I met him, and I got a chance to speak to him. And I think, of course, once you meet somebody face-to-face, it helps you have a better camaraderie with that person. And maybe he felt a little more comfortable with me. I wasn't just somebody out to, use his name or make fun of his work or say anything bad about him. So that, I'm sure that helped, is meeting him face-to-face. And, the research behind it was it was a lot. It was poring over the cases and picking the ones that even David had mentioned to me, hey, try not to pick the cases everybody loves the Elisa Lam case. And she's the one that went missing in L.A., and they actually found her in the same hotel she had been staying in, but she was in one of the water tanks on the roof, in a locked tank through a locked door that went to the roof. Crazy case. And it also has the elevator video of her acting very strangely, and that's still available for anybody to see. So I love that case, don't get me wrong, but everybody's going to talk about that case. So I picked some of the more maybe obscure ones, but they're all interesting. And I remember asking David that. I was like, what are your favorite cases? And he's like, well, and I've heard him say this to other people, it's like picking your favorite kid. They're all strange and unusual in their own way, right? So, yeah, that was a big one for me. So I put in the work, and it was enjoyable, though, all the way around. I think my poor book from David, the new one, Sober and Coincidence, that's the urban cases that we discussed in that episode. it's dog-eared and highlighted, and there's notes all through the margin. Nobody would want to touch my actual copy. It only makes sense to me, but yeah, that was a great episode, and thanks, Shane, for checking that out.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll continue to check them out because you guys are really putting on a fantastic broadcast, and it's very interesting. With in regards to on the subject of David Paulides, he's he gets attacked a lot, and he takes some like a lot of researchers in whatever endeavor they partake in, they get a lot of heat. He gets one of the biggest attacks I've seen pointed at David is that he won't come out and say what's behind this mystery of these missing people or these people that turn up in weird places. And in his books, he's I won't say he's cryptic about it. He's just kind of providing the evidence and providing the stories and the cases. And people are like, well, is it aliens? Is it Bigfoot? Spit it, David. What's doing this? Is it a person? You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I know that even well before I talked to him that he's constantly getting hammered on that. And honestly, I could see where David is coming from. He may have an opinion on it, but if he says even what he possibly thinks it is, even if he says, I just barely think it might be this, everyone will gravitate towards that and maybe take away from the evidence. And instead of just kind of seeing the forest for the trees, and as you said, he just provides the information, I think it's good for him to stay neutral and just relay whatever he learns on the cases. He goes through the files, he goes through the news reports, and he tries to let us decide for ourselves what that is. And I think that we all do that a lot as far as when we have somebody on the show and they just want to tell a story. Like the Boundaries Crossed episode 2 episodes ago, I had a guy named David who had a really terrifying experience with, supposedly a member of Sasquatch. And it's not my place to go, that sounds like a little bit much to me. I don't know about you guys, but here's this guy telling the story. It's his part to tell the information, and then the listeners can pick up the ball and run with it, whichever direction they may want to do that with.
Right. David's background. He is, it was with law enforcement, and he's very much the detective. And just like any cold case or any case that you're involved in, if you have to if you go into guessing things, and you may have an opinion of say there's a murder, you may have an opinion who did it, but you got to line up all the facts first, and you really can't it's humanistic for us to want to say okay and point fingers. But if you're proper about your research, whatever field it is, whether it's paranormal or whatnot, doesn't matter. If you jump to conclusions and put that out there, you're tainting the evidence and you're tainting opinion. And I think it's very important. I think David's done a really good job about that. Is that he may have his own opinions. He very may have that, but he's not jumping to conclusions, and he's just saying, okay, by case, and there's patterns here. Okay, look at the patterns, and it's kind of exciting for me because, and I won't say exciting because I don't enjoy people missing or the amount of hurt and despair that's gone through some of these families and whatnot. But it's like it's kind of boiling to a point where eventually something may come from this. There may be let's look at this seriously. The broader public may look at this more serious, and the authorities may look at this more serious, and then they may be able to gravitate towards, a really good hypothesis or something of that nature, without, having just one person's opinion of what's going on.
Yeah, and actually, it's those of us that host the shows or listen to the shows that can form our own hypothesis safely. He really can't do that safely. He's in charge of the whole thing. It's his deal, and he's the one, like you said, he's even in contact with some of these families, so he has a much bigger responsibility to just pass on the information. There's ufologist, a really smart thinking guy. He does his own show. I think it's on KGRA. He's an author. His name is Richard Dolan. And when he interviewed David Paulides, he was even so forward to say that he thinks this will be something that we can't even grasp right now with our knowledge of the universe and the world and what's around us. He really thinks it's something bigger. It's bigger than us right now. Something that we can't understand.
It's an X-Files conspiracy.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you get into these urban cases, it's really scary.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy, the stuff. But what David does a great job of is like you say, presenting the evidence and leaving it up to the reader to draw their own conclusion. And like Shane is talking about, it's in research, in Bigfoot research and other fields, it's about what you can prove. So
right.
Not jumping, like not drawing, tainting the results by I believe it to be this, because belief doesn't have anything really to do with proof. So that was a great episode.
That's a great point. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
No, and I also liked your serial killer episode. It's escaping me the killer that you were talking about.
Anthony Soule, the Cleveland Strangler.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that one. I've always had a fascination with like true crime, that kind of stuff, and that was very in depth and captivating. So
thank you. I plan to do a lot more of those.
So far you've covered UFOs, serial killers. You've done missing 411, missing persons. You interviewed Nick Redfern, who basically runs the gamut, from Bigfoot to Chupacabra to paranormal MIBs. I mean, he does basically everything. What other kind of shows can we expect that you're looking at here in the near future?
Well, on Thursday, so by the time this will be aired and everything, I will have Steve Stockton. He's the author of Strange Things in the Woods and More Strange Things in the Woods. And I also have, like I said, more Sasquatch shows coming up. Plus there's, I want to do some more haunted theme shows. So I have Haunted Las Vegas since I recently moved back. Actually, Steve Stockton's coming back on for that one because he used to live here. And also a truly haunted house in Holmes County, Ohio. That's also going to be a great episode. You guys are going to love that one.
So you have been interested in Bigfoot for a long time, right? What is your what was your Bigfoot experience? Have you had a confirmation experience, as I like to call them?
I like that. I like that word for that. That's a good one. I have had some auditory experiences, and I think I've actually talked to you guys about this, is what happened at the Browns as far as playing the baby cry, and something came in and was whooping, and it sounded like we were in a primate house. That's the best way to describe it. It was whoop, 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 whoop. And it was constant until the cell phone died with the baby cry, and then it stopped. And then there was crash, 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 off into the brush. That was at the Browns in Washington State. And, of course, the whistle that I had in Salt Fork, Ohio, at Salt Fork State Park. That was one of my first experiences where I was pretty nervous because we were out there. We were doing something kind of finding Bigfoot-esque. We had tied a string to a glow stick, and it was making that cool whirring sound, and it was a little light show at the same time. We were doing that for probably almost an hour in the same spot. We would whir and swing and then stop and listen. And there was nothing. It was dead quiet, too, that night. It was probably 1 a.m. by this time, maybe 2. And there's no wind or no distractions, really. And at one point in between the words, something whistled, and it was loud, and it was high pitched, and it was pretty decently long. But the volume of it is what struck me. And if I could describe it, it would be described as the most messed up bird I've ever heard. It was like a bird just trying to be a bird, but you're like, I don't think that's a bird, because it sounded like it had lips. And it was just loud and monotone. And that's all it was, just that one whistle. And nothing moved away. We didn't hear the brush even crunching or crashing before that or after. But I would have guessed it was no more than 15 to 20 feet away from us. And I was standing. It was pitch dark out there. I was standing, and the second that whistle went off, I went to a crouch position, probably just without even realizing, because it did scare me. I'm not going to act like I'm, the bad as a bone girl out there all the time. I was kind of waiting for something to bust out of the brushes or something. But unfortunately, Sasquatch-wise, I've never seen anything. It's all been auditory, including when I went out with Bob Garrett and his guys and Wes in Texas. It was auditory. And that's very striking, as you guys know. That can get you. But I think until I see one, I still can't just be like, well, yeah, I know they're out there. Of course, I do believe they're out there. I don't want to make it sound like some religious thing. I do believe, of course, there is a chance. I wouldn't be looking into this for 8 years if I didn't think there was a chance that they were out there. But for me, it's all been auditory. I'm still waiting for that big moment when I see the big guy.
Yeah, and Shannon, you've interviewed a ton of people on the Sasquatch subject. I mean, you interviewed a lot of people. You've heard a lot of stories. I know you've done years of research on this. And I was just curious, though, even though you've not had that confirmation, I know I've had that confirmation. I'm fortunate, and I know they're out there, but I won't claim to know what they are. I have my ideas. Do you have any thoughts on what Sasquatch may be? I mean, do you steer in one direction? Is it more paranormal? Is it more flesh and blood? A mixture of both? Is it ape, Neanderthal? Do you have any a personal opinion on that?
I want it to just be that's the wrong word. I want it to be just a really, there's that just word again. I keep throwing that in there. I want it to be a really smart primate, a bipedal primate that just really knows his stuff. There's a Liam Neeson's of the woods. That's what I love to call them that. They're just bad at the bone and they know their stuff. I don't know about you guys, but lately, wow, have we not seen a lot of people go to that other side and explain things as far as the paranormal side of Bigfoot? It seems like it's really growing now.
I've noticed that in the last couple of years that it used to be really quiet, kind of a quiet murmur, and it's a very loud drumbeat. And the chasm between, for lack of a better term, flesh and blood Bigfooters, apers, and those that give them special abilities that aren't found in other animals, it's growing wider. It's cool for me because we have the benefit of having Guy Edward puts on Hopsquatch every month in Portland, and it's a room full of it's a mix of of all kinds of people having different opinions, and it's nice. I've had conversations with like Ron Moorhead and other people that think that there's something besides flesh and blood animal. And so I until I have that experience, I'm in the same boat that you are, Shannon. I have not had a confirmation experience. A lot of auditory weird stuff, rock. My best guess was a rock tossed that made a very loud crash at midnight in the response to like an ape sound. And but no confirmation. So I'm only at about 98.75 now with some of the things that happened that they exist. I think almost any reasonable person reserves some, percentage until they absolutely see one and there's no doubt, and otherwise, that I know, some great people, Shane included, that have no doubt they've seen one, and in no way does my 1.25% skepticism, my holdout until I have that confirmation experience, is not meant to diminish anybody else's experience. So same thing with like the paranormal people that have, that's not been my experience, but we don't know what they are. So, it's just a matter at this point of agree to disagree with my friends that say that they have paranormal abilities. So.
Right. And yeah, you hit it on the head. And I love that confirmation word, guys. I really do. I think that until we have that, like until you and I and Shane, are looking at a Bigfoot, first of all, oh my God, there's a Bigfoot. Second of all, I know Shane's already had that, but I'm just using as an example. And then it just poof disappears. Until we see that, I don't really think that it's my place to make fun of someone who says that they did. And it's not my place to say that they're wrong either, because how do I know that's not what they saw? Maybe we're all wrong. Maybe they are traveling on UFOs, and as funny as that is to say, but I mean, no, I don't want that, because if they're at all paranormal, guess what? We're never going to find out what they are, ever.
Right.
That bums me out, the thought that they're anything but a very, very, very smart primate. Sometimes I do wonder, and I've had this conversation with people, if they're so smart, well, I should say, someone said, if they're so smart, why is there no evidence of tool use? And I said, well, there is some. There's very little evidence of tool use. There's some stories where there were clubs or whatever used. But then I said, well, I mean, if you can run that fast and jump that high and you're that strong, do you even need tools? I don't know. There's so many ways you can go about the Sasquatch thing but yeah, at the end of the day, I don't make fun of anybody. I have all kinds of people on my show, or even if they don't come on my show, I just converse with them through email or the phone, and they just want to tell you their story, and they're like, I promise you this is what I saw. And it's nothing like what I would want my experience to be if I ever had one, but that's what they're saying. You're like, oh my God. Either it's terrifying or it's completely so strange that it would tilt your worldview of, what you wanted, like what box you wanted it to fit in.
Right, yeah.
You're like, I don't want them to be in that box, but heck, who am I to say that they're not?
Yeah, I don't want to go out to the woods anymore. I don't want to go out there. I don't want to camp.
That's right.
I read the story that...
You.
Yeah, and I read a story this week if this is a true story, it makes me not want to go out in the woods and it was a report of somebody having their arm bit off by a squatch. And
oh my goodness,
that is not okay.
What was the deal with that? So that's the basic story.
That was actually
bit off by a squatch.
That was supposedly here in Oregon, down by Medford, and that one gave me the heebie-jeebies.
So what was the story with that? He pissed one off, or what happened?
No, the story was they were camping and they woke up and there was one hanging on a tree in front of them, and it jumped and knocked him down and kind of pulled his pack off and looked like it was looking for food and started sniffing him. And next thing you know, it was sniffing his arm, and next thing you knew, he felt it bite, and it jumped back and had his arm in its mouth, and he wandered down the road, and somebody picked him up, and of course they didn't believe that he had his arm bit off by a Bigfoot, but I don't want to believe that he had his arm bit off by a Bigfoot either. So.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to be Louisville sluggers against trees. We don't want to be used as bats or anything.
No.
There's those stories out there.
Yeah, I often wonder, we put, we're talking about Sasquatch here, and I know Into the Fray is across the board, but it's, Monster X is, kind of our thing. We love, the subject because that's what we research. But, I often wonder, we put Sasquatch into a lot of different little boxes. It's paranormal, it's ape, it's this and that, and I often wonder, and I'm a flesh and blood guy, whatever it is, whether it's some sort of primate or whatnot, I don't know. But I'm in that box right now because I've never experienced anything, and I spend thousands of hours in the field a year. I mean, thousands. And I have to wonder if it's just something so unique, something that we just have not found in the fossil record yet. Just something very unique. It looks primate, it acts primate, but very intelligent. Just something just outside of what we've ever found. It's something I always keep in mind, when I'm trying to box this thing up. And I try not to do that because I think once you pinpoint your research in a certain direction, you're doing yourself and everything else, the research in general, a disservice. I try to keep my mind open to go, this could be something really unique. I mean, obviously it is, but something more unique than what we're looking. And I'm not talking paranormal. I'm just saying some sort of really intelligent thing, that's flesh and blood that we've not been able to discover yet in the fossil record because the fossil record is so incomplete. People always go, well, we haven't found bones in this and that. Well, there's a multitude of reasons that could be. But I often love to think about
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We're always finding stuff that blows our mind. I mean, daily, right?
Yeah, and you make a really good point as far as when you were saying how many hours you spend out there and their intelligence. There's something I bring up as far as, fighting for Bigfoot and the fact that, yes, there has to be a certain amount of them, and they have to repopulate and be breeding, and there has to be a certain amount of them to get it to work, right? Well, there's the North Pond Hermit. This is a human being in Maine. And I don't know if you guys know the story, but maybe some of the listeners don't, but for I think 35 years, this guy just one day decides, forget this, I'm done with society, I'm sick of seeing people, I'm going to go out to the woods. Well, guess what? He did. And he did it for 35 years. He saw one person in 35 years on a trail. He accidentally bumped into somebody. He was trying to stay away from people. And he said hello. That person said hello. That is the only person he saw in 35 years. Now, here's my argument for Bigfoot as far as how it relates to the story. This man lived only usually within miles of wherever the town was that he would have to go into at night or during the day when he would watch the homes, because he would have to go in and he would break and enter, get into the garages, get into the homes when the people weren't home. Bless his heart, thank you, sir. To get gear, to get food. So it is possible for someone of, upstanding intelligence to a certain degree to be off the grid. Now, people were looking for him. They had breaking and entering going on. They had police looking for him. And he was able to go undetected for 35 years. He never built a fire, not once. He never built a fire. And he had one pair of glasses that seemed to last him the entire time, I guess he said. But he was able to live in the woods to a certain degree, right? Like he could stay away from people and the law, quote unquote the law, because they knew he was out there. They're like, there's somebody out there busting into these homes and taking what he needs and going back out there. And I think he had that Northwood Hermit or North Pond Hermit name for quite a while. And he became quite the legend because my point is, long story short, if he could do that and decide, hey, I don't want people to see me. They're bad. I don't like them. They scare me. I'm sure that's exactly what Sasquatch thinks. If he can do it, you better believe something that's born in the woods to do that can accomplish that feat.
Right.
And he's not built for that. We're not built for that. We don't have fur. We don't have massive feet that can, climb the cliffs and do the jumps that they can do. We're not built for that, but he was able to pull that off. Now, granted, he had to steal and pillage, right, to accomplish that, but he did it for 35 years. That's an incredible story for anybody that wants to look that up. That's a true story.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that story, and that's a fantastic point, Shannon. Fantastic point, because this guy, like you said, he wasn't built for this. This is something he jumped into and managed to escape humanity and saw one person. And we're talking about something that is, Sasquatch, or Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, something that is out there that one would assume is born into it and would be that much better at it, and we have a human that managed to do what Sasquatch does to a certain extent, No, that whole story is fascinating, and I'm very familiar with it, and that's a great point. And a lot of people aren't aware of that, and that's just one that we're aware of and told of. I'm sure there's others out there doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and one can assume that obviously Sasquatch would be much better at doing that. But great point.
Thanks. Yeah, I always go back to that. People are like, how can they stay hidden? And that, I'm like thinking, actually, there is this one guy I know for a fact that did it for a very long time. And he was middle-aged, by the time he got out there. Didn't they catch him when he was in his 50s?
Yes, yeah.
So it's not like he was some wolf boy, like, born in a wolf den and he grew up in the woods. This is a guy that just went, oh, forget this, I'm going to the woods. And he did it. He accomplished it for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. To switch directions a little bit, though, I've noticed lately in some of the forums, both online, Facebook, and in the news, there's been a lot of dogmen or wolf-like creatures being reported lately, and it seemed to, kind of like the Gunnar and I were referring to earlier about the paranormal aspect to Sasquatch, has kind of gained, a little bit of traction. Well, much can be said about the dogmen and or these wolf-like creatures. It seems to be gaining traction, and there's more sightings happening. I don't know if you have any future shows planned with that. We've had Linda Godfrey, on the show before, and she's pretty much an expert on that subject.
Yes, she is.
But do you have any?
Yeah, isn't her personal story incredible?
Fantastic.
Oh, I love it. Oh my goodness.
She's so awesome. She's just a very humble person to begin with, and just she coined the phrase, Bray Road. Creature Bray Road. That's her thing. But do you have any? I don't know. Maybe if you've looked into this recently, or maybe you got any upcoming shows on this subject, but it seems to be gaining traction with people and sightings and whatnot. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would love to do a Dogman episode, and I would like to start off by saying Dogman scares me. I'm not going to act bad at the bone about everything. Dogman seems extremely aggressive and in your face, and he does seem the type to bite your arm off or hit you against a tree more than the angry Sasquatch. When you hear people like Linda Godfrey, no nonsense, straight to the point, as you said, sweet as can be, anybody that hasn't heard her personal encounter in the Kettle Moraine, I've interviewed her, you guys have interviewed her, go find an interview with her and listen to Linda Godfrey. She is the go-to for Dogman, and it seems like she's had an experience with one, by the way, and it was incredible. I'm not even going to spoil that. You guys go listen to that. But, yes, Dogman does seem to be gaining traction. I know that talking to Will Jevning, who knows plenty about Sasquatch, will tell you it is I believe it's a type 4, and he thinks that it's another type of Bigfoot. But, when you look at the difference in the tracks, it kind of makes you scratch your head.
Right.
And I'm the first one to say I don't want to ever run into a Dogman. They seem extremely scary. I also, though, I really, to answer your question straight out, I really don't know what they are. I don't know if it's a different species or if it's just a subspecies of a Sasquatch and they have pointed ears and they walk kind of funny. The whole backwards knees thing, that's freaky. I don't know about you guys, but that really creeps me out. or anybody that reports that, I'm like, nope, that's on the no list. But what do you guys think about the whole Dogman thing up and coming, getting bigger?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of it, I think, is just misidentification. Whether it's Bigfoot or Dogman related, a lot of it's just misidentification. And then when you get this pull, or you get a couple of really solid reports, people come out of the woodwork and jump aboard. Now, I'm not saying everybody's lying or what, but there's a lot of hype, and I think that builds upon it, and it gets people excited. And they're driving down the road after listening to a show or seeing something on TV or listening to someone else's story, and they see something, they assume it's a Sasquatch. Now, having said that, I think a lot of the Dogman sightings, personally, I think are Bigfoot related, and they're seeing something that's big and hairy, sometimes maybe on all fours, and this is North America. We're not used to having primates running around. So seeing something on all fours, you're going to assume when it's hairy that it may be more canine, possibly, or a bear.
Right. Good point.
So, yeah, and that's a possibility. But there are reports out there where you got these pointed ears and the legs are, backwards and this weird stuff. That freaks me out. I mean, that's weird. And there's some very credible people who have seen stuff like this. And I don't have an answer for it. I don't know what to tell them other than, well, that's incredible and very strange. And it seems to be, the Dogman sightings seem to be more, east. I'm here in Oregon. I think I've taken one report of a Dogman sighting in Albany, up here in Oregon, but that was it. We don't get those.
How long ago was that, Shane, that was reported?
Oh, I think that was in 2004. I could be wrong, so don't quote me. It may have been earlier than that, but that was in Albany, which is about a 2-hour drive from me, and it was a pretty incredible report. This thing was actually in the water. Pretty incredible report.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
yeah, it was in the water.
They got a really good look at it.
Oh, they got a great look at it, yeah, and they reported being more canine-like, but it was huge. So that's the only report I've ever taken out here of like a Dogman sort of scenario. Everything's way more Bigfoot related, but it seems to me that it's almost like a split divide with these Dogmen. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some south of Oregon. I know New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas even. Some of those areas get Dogmen sightings, but for me, the predominant amount of sightings for Dogmen or reported Dogmen sightings or dog-like, canine, large, whatever, are more east. That in my research and findings.
They must like the really bad weather, I guess. They like the snow and the cold. It keeps us less hairy things inside and out of their way.
Well, maybe it's like the movie Underworld. Maybe they just completely you got the west, we got the east. Leave us alone.
It's the blue scarves and the red scarves.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've heard the reports of people that swear that Dogman and Sasquatch, they don't get along and they have their turf, and they're like, okay, you stay over here and you stay over there and we'll be good, but if you cross this line, we're going to have problems. And I'm like you. I'm like, I don't know what to make of it. Maybe it is misidentification. Maybe it's me going, I hope it's misidentification, because I don't want Dogman to be out there. There's something, not that all Sasquatch stories are light and rainbows and, flowers and everything, but
unicorns.
Something about the Dogman is just, oh my goodness, they seem so scary to me.
Well, and also
unicorn.
You think about a Dogman. Well, there's no, not all Sasquatch stories are unicorns, but there's something that relates, I think, to our psyche about the idea of a Dogman to growing up and watching movies that have werewolves and that kind of stuff, because it kind of brings that kind of monster out of the movies and into real life. So
right,
they're really So it does seem a little more scary, the idea of a Dogman. I don't know. I haven't done a lot of research into Dogman. My thing has been, I'm from Oregon. We have our own monster, with quotation marks, and I grew up thinking that Bigfoot was a northwest, Pacific Northwest phenomenon, that it's in Oregon, Washington, and California. And then, later found out that, they're a little more widespread than that. So, but again, it's people report a very distinct kind of experience when they're reporting dogmen reports first that are different than Bigfoot. Could some of them be misidentification? Sure, but when somebody sees something that, like Shane's saying, the pointy ears, and it has a more dog face with a snout, that isn't what people describe him. That's one of the interesting things that adds credence to the idea that there is probably a Bigfoot, is that the reports are very, very similar, very consistent in what they look like. That they look like an ape. People don't say they look like a dog. They say they look like an ape. So it's interesting. And who's to say that there's not more than one undiscovered animal wandering around the United States in the woods?
Right. Huge. Who are we to say, you're so crazy to think of a dog man is real, but we know Sasquatch is real. That's not funny at all. We're in a good place to laugh
that cracks
about
me up. I always think that's hilarious in Bigfooting, is that first of all, people that we look for Bigfoot, so we're already a little bit off. So to tell somebody else that like you're saying is, you see dogmen, that's nuts. But I'm going to go.
You're crazy. Exactly.
It makes it.
They don't see the forest for the trees for that one.
All right. So, this week you've got the Strange Things in the author, or you have an author of the Strange Things in the Woods, and then the More Strange Things in the Woods, and then what's coming up the week after? Do you have that show in the can already?
Usually I have them ready to go as far as the interviews are ready to go, but I don't have them lined up specifically past next week, actually. So I'm just trying to see what the temperature of things is, and also I try to watch out for what the news is for the week or the week before, so that when Ryan and I and Sam get on the horn, we can try to match it as best as we can. With the missile launch that just went off, that's not going to match very well. That would have been great for a UFO show, but it just didn't work out that way. So we're going to talk about that for Thursday, and it's going to go on the Strange Things in the Woods episode. But that's okay. It happens sometimes. Yeah. But it's something that I saw with my own eyeballs, and so did Sam, because he was in L.A. So, hey, you got to talk about it. It's just a missile, but there are some discrepancies as far as what people were seeing. Some were saying it was changing shape and direction, which is not something missiles are supposed to do. So I think we have to talk about that a little bit. Did you guys get any eyeballs on that way up there, or?
Do you know what? I did not personally, but I have the majority of my family lives in San Diego, so I got a ton of pictures of
Did
these.
You?
Oh yeah, I got a ton of them. They live in San Diego. And I mean, right next to where the stuff was happening, and they sent, at first, there was no word about this, partaking, and so instantly they're like, sending me pictures. What is this? What's going on? This is weird. They're seeing these lights and these, flumes and the whole nine, and I had heard through the grapevine that the military was going to be doing, some shooting off missiles and doing this and that. So I kind of calm them down and say, hey, this is what I've heard it is. Can't confirm it, but this is what I've heard it is. And so, they were like, oh, okay. But yeah, I've heard a lot of discrepancies and I've seen some pretty intriguing photos too that show differences. But what it is, I don't know. But yeah, I have family down there and they've sent me a ton of pictures, and maybe perhaps I'll share them in your group, Shannon, because some of them are pretty fascinating. And there's a ton of them out there now. But
Oh, I would love for you guys always post anything that you want, including for the show, by the way.
Okay, appreciate that.
There's been discrepancies all across the board, and even Sam was like, I saw some like extra things coming off of it, and I didn't see that. I just saw the big. It looked like a sideways mushroom cloud, and it was bright blue. It was very cool. I have a really bad photo. It's like the typical Sasquatch photo. It's completely blurry, but you can get the shape of it. Yeah, it's terrible. Everyone's like, "Oh, it must be real. It's blurry." I'm like, "Ha ha!" Loud, laugh out loud. But I know that I was reading reports on it, and the U.S. is just saying, "Hey, we can't be announcing this stuff because China and Russia are, always down our backs and looking at what we're doing, so we couldn't announce it." But did you guys know that there was another one that went off? I think it was, so the first one was what night was the first one? On the 7th. And then the second one, there was a second one that went off, but
recently.
This one went off during the, yeah. But nobody really saw that, and probably if they did, they'd be like, it's another missile test.
Yeah.
By now, they know, right? But because they said that because of the time that went off, it was sunset, and they didn't realize this, and they admit this. They said the time that it went off, and because of when the sun was setting, they weren't expecting it to be so bright and last so long. So even that took them by surprise, them being the ones that launched it from the sub. So the government, right, they didn't realize that.
Yeah, no, the whole thing's fascinating because even if it's totally, and I assume it is, that it's just the military doing their thing and whatnot, but the timing, even if it's just something very natural, like the military doing what they're doing, it's a show of power for me. You got, like you said, China and Russia doing their thing, and North Korea doing their thing, and Iran doing their thing. It's kind of freaky because, this sort of thing's happening just off the coast of California and, Southern California, and people are seeing it and not really in the know. As far as I know, they were redirecting flights from LAX and San Diego and kind of close bordering the area, so that they could do this exercise.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so, is it an exercise? What is this? And why there? There's a lot of things that don't make sense. There's some things that make sense. I'm not in the know. I don't know. But it's a fascinating topic to discuss because you have a lot of eyewitnesses viewing this stuff from different areas. You're in Vegas, correct?
Yeah.
And you saw this.
I did. I didn't get a long look because I think I caught the very end, and the sun was really going down by the time I saw it. But I was on the freeway. Yes, I did take the picture while I was driving. That's not good. But, yeah, I saw it really well. For the time that it was in the sky and I was looking at it, it was bright blue.
Right.
Now, I just want to make a public service announcement. Children, if you have heard Shannon LeGro took a picture while she was driving, don't try to
very bad. Don't do that ever. It's so sad what we think of because I'm like, I have to share it with everybody because it was cool, right? You're like, I knew it wasn't anything extraterrestrial. I knew it was terrestrial, but it still looks so cool. I'm like, I have to take a picture. Let me get my iPhone out. Oh my goodness, don't ever do that. That was bad. It's terribly blurry. It's such a Sasquatch photo. It's bad, but you can see the basic shape and the fact that it's glowing bright blue. So I could see where, somebody just glancing up and they're like, oh my God, we're being invaded. It's like, ID4, where's Will Smith? So I'm sure it freaked a few people out.
Yeah, but another fascinating topic to discuss, regardless of whatever it was, there's a lot of opinions out there, and who knows? Doing a show like that may bring some new ideas and some, the really cool thing about doing shows like, Monster Radio and Off the Fray, we get a lot of intriguing guests and people sharing things and stuff that at times blows my mind. Just does. I'm like, wow. Just having a show on a subject you can get a variety of people, not just calling into your show, but sending you emails and PMs and whatnot. And you really, I think shows, like what we do and provide, Shannon, really just open people's minds and get people a little more comfortable to speak about some of the things that they would not, or not even having a venue to speak about. We kind of provide, a venue where people can go, okay, well, here's a picture, or here's what I saw, or here's my opinion. And I think that's some of the, truly is kind of what I love about doing podcasting and blog shows and the radio, is getting this huge amount of people commenting on a subject that you would not hear or find anywhere else unless you provided the venue.
Absolutely. It's so fun. At the end of the day, I don't care if I ever make $1 from this. It's so fun. And I'm happy to go, yeah, I'm a big, huge nerd. What do you want? Yeah, I like talking about Bigfoot. I like talking about UFOs. I'm sure that a lot of my old friends, if they even found out what I do now, they'd be like, so you're kind of weird. I'm like, yep, I am weird. Yes. It's just how it is, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, it's just who we are, and I think that we embrace it in a great way by, like you said, we provide the venue, and if people want to come forward and talk to us, fantastic. You know what, before I ever got on the Sasquatch Chronicles or even thought about being on the radio, that was not premeditated. It was not like one day I'm like, right, I want everyone to know who I am in the Sasquatch community. It was not like that at all. For years before that, I studied so quiet. I was just a reader. I'm a huge reader. Every night I read. Every day I read. I would listen to podcasts. I'd listen to you guys. I'd listen to Wes. I'd listen to everybody. And it's just soaking in information. And I know for a fact that for my show, for your show, there are a ton of people that they may never contact us. They may never email us or, put a review on iTunes, whatever. But they're listening, and they find us interesting, and that's the payback for us. We love it. We love this.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. And that's the joy of it, is getting an audience involved and sharing, without prejudice, ideas and opinions and the whole nine. Just going, hey, here's a show topic. Here's what we were talking about tonight, and partake in that and enjoy it. And I think the majority of people that listen to your show and our show really do. I really feel that. And you guys, Into the Fray really are. The sky's the limit. You guys are doing really good things, and I just, I'll say that all night long. I don't care. You guys are awesome and doing a really good job. But Shannon, you fortunately have got to meet a lot of people out there. You've met a lot of interesting characters, a lot of influential people in multiple amounts of fields. Who are some of the most predominant people that stick out in your mind when it comes to any sort of research? I don't care if it's paranormal, alien, Bigfoot. Who are some of the people that stick out to you that you've gotten a chance to meet, and who would you like to meet down the road?
It's an ongoing joke, and having heard the show, I've probably said his name about 5 or 6 times so far, but being back in Vegas, you already know who I'm going to say. Being back in Vegas, yeah, you do. He's local to Vegas. He's on Channel 8. His name was George Knapp. He's like us. He's like, look, I'm into weird stuff. I'm okay with that. He is an award-winning journalist, and this man has talked to Bob Lazar. He's talked to Robert Bigelow. He's been out to Skinwalker Ranch. That's a whole other show, by the way. Just Google Skinwalker Ranch. If you don't know about it, it'll come up. But he's written about Skinwalker Ranch. He talks about Area 51. This man, he is bad to the bone. I would love to meet George Knapp. The ongoing joke with Into the Fray is that I started the show just to meet George Knapp. I can't even say that with a straight face because it is a joke, but I kind of mean that because I have the utmost respect for him. He is fantastic. He also is a host on Coast to Coast, I think once a week, right? So Yeah, he's bad at the bone. I have the utmost respect for that man. He knows his stuff inside and out. He also does investigative reports for Channel 8 here in Vegas on, I think his latest one was asbestos that's been poisoning some folks. Anyway, but he's one that I would love to meet. But some people that I have met that I think are notable, I have not yet been to a UFO conference, so I don't have a long or even a short list of names for that, but I've met Bob Gimlin. He is just as nice as everybody says he is. He is a wonderful, wonderful man. He's always got a smile on his face. He's got time for everybody, and he's just happy to be there. That is honestly, like, that was a huge honor to meet him at Salt Fork. When I went to the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, I got to see my friend Henry May. Henry May is a big supporter of the show. He's in my chat room every week, bless his heart. Hey, Henry, thank you so much. Another sweet man. I have so many friends in this, including you guys, the Squatchachusetts guys. It's hard to name everybody, but for the most part, it's, you know, and I know there's drama in Bigfoot. We all know that. But for the most part, it's a lot of camaraderie, and people are friends. People watch out for each other. And even if it's just through Facebook, like people like Monica Rollins, I've never actually spoken to her, and I hope to soon, and I hope to meet her soon. But
she's awesome.
I know that if I reached out to her, if I needed something, or she would be there. You know, even though for right now it's only been through Facebook. You know, people like Sean Forker, Lon Strickler. I mean, bless his heart, he just lost Vanessa. Thoughts about the family for that. It's a big community, whether or not, you know, people like me go, hey, I'm into more than Bigfoot. It's still a nice big community. So for the most part, I have no complaints. Like, I won't stop what I'm doing just because somebody writes a bad review or a nasty email, which we all get, and there we have those people that are die hard against us, and that's okay. That's just life. I think that we all just enjoy what we do, and yes, meeting these incredible people has been a great part of doing this. And I hope to meet you guys, by the way, now that I'm saying this. I haven't met you guys in person, so hopefully that'll happen soon. We'll get out to a beach foot or something. Yeah.
Well, we hope to have you out to Beachfoot or some event where we can meet up, because I'd love to meet you, Shannon. I think you're a fascinating individual, and you have a lot to provide for any topic, but just the community in general. You piece a lot of people together, and what you were saying earlier about the camaraderie, you know, it's very true. I think those that are in it for the longevity are those that stick together. It's those that come in and go and disappear that are the troublemakers or the people that are very negative. It's okay to agree to disagree. You know, that's okay. I mean, you see that in life, whether it's politics or family, it happens. But you all have, you know, for the majority of us, we have a common goal. It's to seek the truth and to share experiences and have fun doing it, and not belittle each other. You know, and that's something that's very important to me. You know, that I don't spend my time attacking others. It's useless. It's a waste of time. I enjoy hearing other people's experiences, learning from them, and collaborating with them. And sometimes I learn something from them, and sometimes they learn something from me. And that's the joy of it all, really, truly.
Yeah, and, you know, you made a good point, because not every day in Bigfoot is a good day, and sometimes even if you're on Facebook, you scroll through your feed, and you're like, man, it's kind of a bummer of a day, and it's kind of dramatic, and there's stuff, you're right, like there's stuff going on, and we can't avoid it all the time, but you just try to be as diplomatic and fair as you can be. And just at the end of the day, you use the word fun. And I've said this before. I'm like, when it stops being fun, I'll shut her down. It's as simple as that. But for now, I'm like, the hands up, and I'm like, go nerds, all right. And it's still fun. So it's all good for now. Yeah.
And Shannon, you were living in Ohio and moved to Vegas. What a contrast being, in Ohio, one of the top states for, Sasquatch sightings, to Vegas. I know you it's probably a smart move for you, and you felt that obviously. What are your plans in Vegas? I mean, what are you going to do there that you could not do, say, in Ohio? And where are some of the places that you would like to go to and either research or just enjoy North America?
That is a really good question. And yeah, so I already missed the woods. And just so everybody knows, I am originally from Las Vegas, and I was a transplant to Ohio, and I was there for a couple years. As everybody knows, I was going to the conferences, and I was going to Salt Fork and Wayne National Forest and all these gorgeous hot spots, like you said, for Sasquatch. I already missed that very much. It's gonna hurt my heart for a while to be away from Ohio. I want to go back to visit, but being back in Vegas, I'm like, okay, so you're doing the multi-topic thing. You're touching on UFOs and this and that. There's all sorts of areas out here to go to, obviously. I've been to Rachel, Nevada, which is only about 40 miles from the gate of Area 51. And there's plenty of places here to embrace the whole UFO side thing. I could go that route, but when I miss the woods, which I already do, at this very moment I do, just not having that option it's a little terrifying for me. I was only about an hour away from the woods and an option to camp, and I don't have that anymore. So, growing up, my family had a cabin in Utah, so I could always go there. That's 4 or 5 hours away. Not as many Bigfoot there as, say, Oregon or Washington, right? So those are trips that I want to do. Northern California, maybe even making a trip to Bluff Creek. I don't want to sound like it's so overplayed, which it's not. It's an iconic site, right? Just like Ape Canyon, where you guys are going. I would love to go to Bluff Creek, make that trip. In fact, Sam and I have even talked about making that trip, doing a road trip up there, Sam Shearon. But Oregon and Washington, I think, is my favorite place. As much as I love Texas and Ohio, I love them both. But Oregon and Washington, having lived in Washington for a couple of years, that also has my heart in lots of special ways. So I would love to get up there and spend some more time and look into the subject of Sasquatch and spend nights and nights and nights out there putting the time in. Like you said, Jane, you spend thousands and thousands of hours out there, and that's what you have to do. You have to up your chances by being out there. You're not going to go out there 1 week in a year and expect to be like, I didn't have anything happen, so there's no Bigfoot out here. That's not how that works. So I have got to get out there. I already miss it. I truly do.
Well, you're doing a fine job with what you're doing. I mean, some of the biggest research done and some of the biggest answers have come from doing what you're doing and what we're doing. And letting people have a voice and talk about their experience and stuff. I mean, I catalog everything, every show, whether I disagree with the guest or not, or I catalog everything. And I know, Shannon, you're a student of the subject or subjects, and it's something that you're very diligent about, and that's something I really enjoy doing. And having these guests and stuff on the show, that's a huge. I mean, I can't count. I can't discount the worthiness of doing that. But to get you on the field, there's so much fun being out there. And like you said, some days out in the field, you don't really, you have good days and bad days. And actually, when I'm out in the field, they're all good days. It doesn't matter if I have anything happen or not. It doesn't matter if I record something, see something, find something. Just being out in nature in general, out in the woods, it's a blessing. It's just, man, I can't explain it. It's just fun. And so spending hours out there, as much as I do, and as much as some of my cohorts do, it's an amazing experience. I wish I could spend more. I wish I could live out there sometimes, but unfortunately, I gotta, pay bills and the whole nine.
There's nothing like the smell of a campfire and just getting ready to go out for the night, wherever it may be. I miss it. I miss it so much. So I hope that I can get out there soon.
Oh shoot! You need to come up to you need to come up to Washington, Oregon, specifically Oregon, where we're at. But you're always, Shannon, you're always invited to come up to. We work with the Limit Project. We're part of the Tillamook group, and you're always invited up this way to partake in some of our research, and fresh eyes on the ground, such as yourself, would be an amazing and awesome thing. And I, hope to meet up soon. There's a lot of events coming up. We got the Ohio Conference next year and stuff. Hopefully, some point we'll actually meet up and talk to each other.
Well, thank you, Shane. That's an incredible invite. Thank you so much. I would do that in a heartbeat, by the way. Go up to Oregon and hang out with you guys. That would be great. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Gunnar, what are your thoughts?
I was curious. Shannon said something about the across the board kind of the way that Into the Fray covers all the different kinds of subjects, and it's funny because it's a lot of people that I run into that are interested in the topic of Bigfoot are interested in other topics, some that would be considered paranormal. They might be interested in Bigfoot and UFOs. They might be interested in Bigfoot and ghosts and psychic phenomenon and stuff. It's funny, but you get Bigfoot. People don't like. I call it. They don't like to cross streams. It reminds me of Ghostbusters, where they said, "Don't cross streams." Yeah. So like, do not cross
the streams,
you cannot make Bigfoot any. Bigfoot has to be an ape, and that's my feeling too. But it's funny is that people get so hardcore about it. It's like, but they have these other interests. My comic for me would be a Bigfoot flying a ghost Bigfoot flying a UFO and over Loch Ness. But but it's funny is that people do have, and I have interest in other areas besides Bigfoot, but that's my real passion, and and we on the show last week we've had a lot of people come and join Monster X, our Facebook group, in the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to let people know that our perspective is that they're a flesh and blood animal, and that we don't really ascribe to them being paranormal, but I would highly suggest that people are looking for paranormal topics and stuff to tune into the Fray, because Shannon is covering it all and doing a great job of doing it. And you can again find Into the Fray. It's on you're on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Pacific, and it's www.intothefrayradio. Don't forget the radio part.com.
Perfect. Yeah, and I wanted to add in there that, if we're doing a Bigfoot show, just because the next show or the previous show is UFOs, that's not me trying to tie them in. I really do. I mean, if the guest takes it that direction, I let them, spout that. If he's like, hey, I think Bigfoot is paranormal, I'll let them go down that path because that's what they think. That's fine. But yeah, I'm trying to really separate each and every episode and make it its own that's its own community. Here's another community, UFOs, Bigfoot, hauntings. So I'm not saying they're not connected, but I'm not saying they are either. I just don't know. I don't want them to be, though. I really, truly don't. I would love to find out what Sasquatch is, just like everybody else is striving for the same answers. And that's what this is all about, as Shane mentioned. We're just trying to gather as many stories as we can, trying to fit the puzzle pieces in, and who knows if we'll ever find it, but it's fun in the meantime.
What a ride.
We appreciate each and everybody that comes on our shows, or emails and contacts us. I know that the guys feel the same way. So we thank everybody for their time.
Yeah. No, what a ride. What a ride. I've had such enjoyment pursuing this subject, specifically Sasquatch, but what a ride. Shannon, I got to ask you as a final question from me is, where do you see, whether it's paranormal research with UFOs or ghosts or whatnot, or with the subject of Bigfoot, where do you see the future of this going? Are you seeing any advancements in the pursuit of these cryptids and the paranormal aspect to some of these and the ghosts and whatnot? I mean, where do you see this going? Are we backtracking? Are we going forward? Are any advancements? What's your opinion?
I think there have been advancements. I think there's been great advancements, but I think that in the advancement being maybe social media and connectivity, I think that it, in some ways, and I'm not degrading any of it at all, it's great that we're all connected. I wouldn't know half of the people I know without Facebook, even though some days I hate it, I loathe it, but it's also an angel at the same time. I think that because we're so connected and there's so much information flowing, it's great. But there's so much out there that is from, and you guys get it in your group. I know I get it in my group. People will post stuff from dailymail.com, or I think it's Daily Mail. I don't want to say the wrong name. Is that the right name? They're the satire websites, and they're clickbait.
Yes.
And you're going,
well said.
Oh, and you just cringe because you know that that's just a completely fabricated story, and people run with it, and they don't realize that there is an entire, just Google satire news websites. I did that one day, and I have a list of things. I have so many notebooks, right? I'm sure you guys do too.
Yeah.
And I have a list of the satire news websites, and I'm like, avoid. You know, you don't want to even read those. They're crap. They're 100% crap. It's clickbait. It makes them money. And I think that, yes, there are advancements. To answer your question long, I'm sorry. There are advancements, but unfortunately there's also a lot of channels on TV that just want ratings. There's a lot of articles on the Internet, as we just mentioned, that just want clicks. So as long as you weed through things, there are really good gold nuggets out there, and you can learn a lot. And you can learn a lot from the people that contact us, that we subsequently bring on our shows. And there's also great people that you can meet just by reading their books and contacting them and saying, hey, I need to know more about this subject and that subject. Yes, there are advancements. I truly hope that we do find our way with, the answers that we're seeking. I don't know that we will, but I think that with all of us working towards the same goal, something's got to break. I just feel like I feel like the dam is it's barely holding everything back. I feel like there's something coming. I do feel like that, and it's exciting because I'm like, I hope it's not just me being excited because there's all this buzz out there. I really do feel like there's something coming. It has nothing to do with TV shows or anything like that. I just think there's a lot of really good people in the field, like you guys, doing really good work. I think something is going to happen. Yeah, I do.
Well, Shannon, my favorite part of the show was right now, because the satirical stuff that's out there, you nailed it. It's out there, and it's a click factor. People want to click on it because they have a huge headline, they have a great picture, and it's other crap. But that you nailed it to a T, and I love that you brought this up, because it's everywhere, and it's so easy to see a really intriguing headline with a really intriguing photo or no photo, and jump aboard and go, wow, it's amazing. Wow.
National Enquirer.
Yeah, National Enquirer, but I mean, it's like online, and it's so easy to look at that and go, oh, and then start posting it. And when you start posting that on these social media sites, people jump aboard and go, wow, look at this, and before you know it, it's just a phenomenon. And it means nothing. It's utter crap. And you will never see that or you'll never hear that on Monster X Radio. And I'm sure Into the Fray will never do that. I mean, we may post controversial stuff. We may post and have controversial guests, no doubt. But most of the guests and the stuff we put on our shows we've vetted a little bit. No, we're not condoning or saying we believe the guests or whatnot 100%.
Right.
But it's a lot more. We're not doing this for shock and awe. It is to enjoy it, give at least give a little bit of credence to the subject, and expand your mind and make you think a little bit and enjoy the show, but not for shock and awe. Bar none, not going to happen.
No, we're not the clickbait types.
No,
there's plenty of those out there, and I did that. I've done that before. I in fact, it was just last month. I posted something. I didn't read it as I should have. I didn't even do my checking as I normally do. It was on my phone. I just share. I shared it to my page, and someone's like, that's not. I was like, oh my goodness, and I apologize. I took it down because I don't want to feed into that. Like you said, it catches fire. These things go viral, and thousands, if not millions, of people see this stuff, and all of a sudden, it's part of pop culture, and you're going, that's not even a real thing. It's really sad.
So what you're saying is the ninja baby fighting the stuffed dragon wasn't real.
It's such a bummer, but no.
So no, I mean it is crazy because people and society has been primed with that with all the grocery store checkout newspapers and we won't name them all, but with the shocking, you could read how I had Bigfoot's baby and all that kind of stuff was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny as people do not necessarily discern fact from fiction. They just saw it because it's on a piece of newspaper, or now it's even more pervasive because of the internet.
It's hard to detect.
It's so easy, and people don't take the time don't always take the time to be discerning and check back the source and make sure that what they're looking at isn't from like a satirical website or something. So that's good advice. Pay it. Every time that something gets posted and you read it, you should do a little bit of fact checking if you're really interested in the topic.
Yeah, and the list is depressingly long. If you Google satirical websites, it's very, very sad, actually.
Yeah, but that's not what we're about here. Into the Fray is not about that. Monster X is not about that. We do our homework, and we look at the subject seriously, and we get incredible guests. And we don't say necessarily that the guests are always right, but we're not satirical. Very serious about the subject. And I know you guys are, Shannon, and you guys provide a great format for that, for great discussion, and you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I'm really stoked that you joined us tonight on Monster X Radio, and I hope the best for you guys, and I know that I will be listening to your show nonstop, because even though some of the subject matter is not my forte, per se, it is intriguing. It's really interesting, and I enjoy that.
Thank you so much. And Shane and Gunnar, thank you so much for having me tonight, and thanks to all the Monster Xers for, let me chew their ear off for a while.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you joining us tonight. We got about a minute left tonight on Monster X. And I know that Shane is getting ready for our big trip out into Ape Canyon with Mark Marcel, who will be on our show in a couple of weeks once we have survived our outing. Hopefully we'll come back with a really cool story about how Shane found a shell casing that was shot back in 1924. So until then, we want to thank our guest again, Shannon LeGro. from Into the Fray for joining us on Monster X. And we will be back next Sunday, because this show will actually be playing the upcoming Sunday. And at that time, our guest will be Brown. Until then, thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.
Shop now for Thanksgiving at your local Albertsons. You'll find savings to be thankful for, like a great deal on turkey. Buy a frozen 14 to 20 pound grade A honeysuckle whole turkey and get one free when you spend an additional $35. Limit 2 while supplies last. Shop Snack Mania deals too. Selected varieties and sizes of Lay's potato chips, Chips Ahoy cookies, and more are only $1.99 each when you buy 3. Mix and match. Albertsons is partnering with local food banks. See store for details. Albertsons. It's just better.